Well, let's go straight to our next guest, live Professor Nottis Mariás. He's an independent Greek MEP. Give us some more insight on the last news coming out of Syria. This agreement was reached just a week after Iran, Russia and Turkey met in Moscow to discuss the crisis in Syria. How significant is the ceasefire made by the Troika? Are you optimistic that this could actually hold?
Well, I think that it is a very fragile agreement. We have to wait and see. But it is very important because the truce that will be implemented from the 30th of December is very important. We need more time to see whether the key players are going to implement the agreement. But once this agreement is implemented, this means that a peace process could start smoothly in a short time. This will be very important for the region because everybody advocates a peace settlement in the crisis of Syria. It will be also important for the wider region because the migration flows will stop, and this is very interesting and important also for Greece because, as you know, the Greek islands are packed by refugees and illegal immigrants that come from Turkey. Once a peaceful agreement is decided in Syria, then I hope that we're not going to have any refugees coming to Greece.
Indeed, and despite all the criticism of the Syrian conflict and the conduct of Russia, Iran, etc., no European leaders were actually involved in the ceasefire deal, aside from the US, of course. What exactly does that tell us? What kind of impact do you think that will have on the ongoing peace negotiations?
Well, I think, first of all, Russia could guarantee, and I'm sure that it will guarantee the ceasefire, the peaceful the ceasefire and the truce, and this is very important. I don't know whether Turkey will act according to what it has agreed, but this we will wait and see. Also, I hope that the Trump administration, once it comes in office, will be also involved in the peace process. This is very important. Also, we should have the United Nations on board. If we could succeed to have all the important players on board, then this will be very fruitful and important for the peace talks. Everybody in Europe and especially in Greece hope that a peace agreement will be signed in Syria, so the situation in the whole area will be more let's say, will be a situation that can be manageable and stop asylum seekers coming to Greece and Europe.
In terms of the parties in this agreement, obviously, it may have come as a bit of a surprise. Putin, Erdogan, Russia, Turkey, they've supported diametrically opposed sides. So far in this conflict, the relationship hasn't exactly been great between the two. But in terms of President Erdogan, how do you assess his role in this agreement?
I beg your pardon, I didn't listen to you very well.
The role of President Erdogan of Turkey, how do you assess his role in negotiating this whole agreement, bearing in mind that Russia and Turkey have been on opposing sides of the conflict?
Well, I think President Erdogan was obliged to come to this agreement because the situation in Turkey is very unstable. The economic situation also is very difficult for Turkey. Turkey has not succeeded in its own policy overthrowing Assad from Syria. So I think it's a compromise by Mr. Erdogan, who was obliged to come to the table of negotiations. And I think under the influence of Mr. Putin, he was obliged actually to accept this agreement and also persuade various groups of opposition in Syria to come to the table of negotiations. And this means that all this time Turkey actually was a player that has been putting fire to the situation. It was a player that was supporting ISIS, everybody knows that, and the role of Turkey was a very dangerous role in the case of Syria. Now Turkey was obliged to change its tactics, its role, and I think they will be obliged to continue on this line. They don't have any other solution. They have to come to the negotiation table. They have to persuade their allies in Syria to stop fighting in this civil war and actually come in terms with a peaceful settlement in the problem of Syria.
Right, Professor Nottis Marias, independent Greek MEP, thanks for joining us here on RT today. Thanks for your time. Well, as the Foreign Minister